As we approach Fastlane, Edge is oddly annoyed with Daniel Bryan's decision to face Roman Reigns at Fastlane. Drew McIntyre and Sheamus reignite their rivalry, and the Fiend's return looms. We're going to get it all started right after this.
Rotella Resale is your premier collectibles, toys, and novelty retailer. Action figures and statues by Funko, NECA, DC, Marvel, and more. Die-cast vehicles by First Gear, Die-cast Masters, Greenlight, and those hard-to-find models. Rotella Resale offers Zippo lighters, rock t-shirts, and toys from all the major brands. All merchandise is brand new and ready to ship. Shop now and receive free shipping on every order. Enter promo code VIDEO at checkout for 20% off your entire order. Visit RotellaResale.com. That's RotellaResale.com.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your number one source for the latest in WWE news and straightforward analysis. Are you ready to get this thing going?
Give me a hell yeah! I said give me a hell yeah!
Then let's get this show started right now.
Alrighty, everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast. It is the week in review for this Sunday, March 14th, 2021. It is officially Fastlane week, as we are 1 week away now from the final stop before WrestleMania 37. Had to think about that for a second, but it is WrestleMania 37. That is just under a month away now. And it's Fastlane week, though, guys, and that's what this whole week's going to be about. It's covering the Fastlane pay-per-view from wall to wall, top to bottom. We're going to grind it into a fine powder, and there's going to be a lot of shows this week. I mean, we have our normal reviews, and I'm very grateful for all of our hosts and co-hosts that come on here. And tonight I am doing the show solo again, not because co-hosts aren't willing or able to come on tonight, but just because of the fact that I am just my schedule has been crazy lately from a personal perspective. Nothing bad going on, just insane, and it wouldn't have been fair for my co-hosts to have to wait around or whatever. I know everyone's got things to do, and I'm trying to be courteous to everyone's schedules, but since it is a pay-per-view week, things will be changing this week, as we're going to bring on co-hosts on the pay-per-view preview and review show, preview and prediction show, I should have said, and then, of course, on the review of Fastlane, which will be coming to you early Monday morning, late Sunday night, with the Botch Guy, YouTube's Botch Guy, which, please, guys, do yourself a favor. If you haven't heard of him, go check him out on YouTube. It's YouTube. Just search the Botch Guy. You'll find him, and you'll wonder how you lived without his videos. I'm telling you. It'll brighten your day. His passion is so genuine. It's not anything that's manufactured whatsoever. True love for wrestling. He even brought in his wife for some wrestling commentary, and his wife just absolutely despises wrestling, which is really funny. Mine does too. I think a lot of us that are married and have significant others, wives, husbands, whatever it may be, we understand the struggle that it can put in our relationships, because if they aren't wrestling fans, they just kind of look down on it, right? I mean, they may support you, but they hate it. So that is going to be happening Sunday night, early Monday morning. As you wake up Monday, you'll see a review for Fastlane, and of course, on our Saturday night show, which again only happens on pay-per-view weeks, we'll bring on a co-host for the preview and prediction show Saturday night. So a big week coming up, and then we're full bore into WrestleMania 37 season. So let's talk about this week, guys. Let's talk about it, because I thought it was a good SmackDown. I really enjoyed SmackDown. And there was a lot to like about the show, particularly with Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, which I believe they are truly turning Sasha heel. I mean, there's just no way that they can't be making Sasha a heel right now. It would be impossible for them to keep Sasha a heel. I mean, you could argue she was never a babyface, which I am of the belief of, that she never actually turned babyface from the split with Bayley. And I will argue that to the death. But some of you don't care. Some of you just love Sasha because she's hot and she's a great performer and all this. But I think she's got a big attitude problem that bleeds into her real life. I really, really believe that. Go watch the Broken Skull sessions if you don't believe me. I said that last week, which is why I think she makes a great heel, much better than a babyface. It comes out much more naturally, because I believe she is truly got a bit of an arrogance to her. But hey, I mean, that's who she is. I personally don't care. It just, the fact remains, Sasha Banks is a much better heel because I think she takes a lot of what she is in real life and applies that to her personality on air, which comes across as a heel. But it doesn't take away with how good she is in the ring. She's got certainly an on-camera presence that's undeniable. She's had an okay run as SmackDown Women's Champion. It's been okay. And I mean that because I think she's been, number one, miscast as a babyface, at least for the last, a few months from splitting with Bayley that we're all supposed to suddenly love her. She didn't give us a reason to, and she's still this arrogant woman who's talking about everything revolves around her, and I'm number one, and the obnoxious laugh she does. None of that was appealing to me. But now it seems as if they've come really outright and told us that she is the heel. I would hope, considering that she's laughing in Bianca's face and just continues to tell her that she's number one and that, you're a rookie, all these things. Like, that's not even close to babyface. It's not even the same league or stratosphere or universe as what a babyface would say. So I would assume and like the fact that they've kind of come to terms with no one's going to cheer for Sasha at WrestleMania, especially if there's a crowd there. And I am so excited. You know what? Out of everything that I'm excited for WrestleMania, and there's really a lot to get excited for. A lot, really. I don't mean that in a sarcastic way or any kind of just kind of passive-aggressive comment. There really is a lot to get excited for, match-wise, and the fact that this may be the first WrestleMania that we do not have mega stars returning from the Attitude Era or otherwise, which would be refreshing. I know that a lot of you look forward to it, and I sometimes do too. I always do, because look, we grew up with watching wrestling. Most of us that are listening, if you're listening to wrestling podcasts, you are more of a fan than most. I wouldn't say you're a casual fan, although we do have a casual fan that listens to the show, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan. So outside of him, which, by the way, I love hearing from him every week, it is just something that I think most of us look forward to with certain guys and gals. Not Hogan. Okay, Flair's worn out as welcome too. I'm talking about Austin, Rock. Hogan, I don't think most of us want to see ever again. We just don't. Even if you're a Hogan fan and don't care about the racist comments he said, it's that's bad enough. But that aside, I think that even his nostalgia is just squeezed. You squeezed everything out of that lemon or orange. Pick your fruit that you can. And so my point is, though, this could be the first WrestleMania in a long time that we don't have WWE going into the bucket to pull back yesteryear's stars, which is a good thing because I want to see how they do without it. Because as long as I've known or watched wrestling, they have always brought back big stars at WrestleMania. And you know what? I understand why, but I want to see how they do on their own 2 feet. How WWE does and fares and how it's received by fans without bringing back and leaning on those Attitude Era stars. I mean, look, I love a stunner and beer as much as the next person. Probably more than the next person. I'm a massive fan of Stone Cold. We know this. The Rock, many of you, big fans. I'm a big fan to some extent, not on a personal level. I don't agree with a lot of the things he says and does. But from a professional standpoint, I respect the guy to, infinity. And his work ethic is second to none. I was a big fan of The Rock growing up. He's kind of just morphed into this Hollywood, political guy that he just is. It's not my favorite. But I know The Rock coming back. We'd all watch. We'd all want to see a rock bottom. We'd all want to see a people's elbow. I mean, but my point is, wouldn't you want to see a WrestleMania without that? Just a thought. Okay, I think I've said that enough. But the biggest point about WrestleMania, beyond hopefully no Attitude Era stars being there, is the fact that fans are being brought back. The biggest star WWE has are the fans, and they're coming back. And WWE apparently wants to make this as big as possible, with as many fans as possible. They want a jam-packed arena in Raymond James Stadium. And I think that they are working with local officials, local health officials, maybe even those from the CDC, and trying to get a way to clear people to come in, as many people as they possibly can. What that means, I don't know. I don't know how many. You would think it would be comparable to the Super Bowl. You would think that it would be comparable to the Super Bowl with, I think they had 25,000 fans there, and its capacity is 80, 90,000 people at Raymond James Stadium. So that is encouraging with 25,000 fans there, but I know WWE wants more. They want 50, 60, 70. Hell, they'd pack out the place if they could. So we'll see if WWE is able to manage more fans than were there for the Super Bowl. You would think 3 months after the Super Bowl, as more vaccines roll out, more people get the virus, herd immunity, all that kind of stuff, that you'd be able to. I mean, there's no mask mandate in Florida. There's no mask mandate in 10 out of the 50 states. Take that for whatever you will, whether you think it's foolish or not. I'll leave my opinions to your imagination. But I think for WWE's sake, they're in the best state that they can possibly be in for lax restrictions and for a max amount of fans in an arena. I know that I'm laboring this point, but it is important because you're going to remember how important fans are. That pumped-in crowd noise is going to disappear. Those real emotions coming out of real human beings are going to be present. And it's going to be a glorious day in WWE. Now, does it mean that they're going to be there on a weekly basis? No, because WWE is not traveling. Probably sometime late in 2021. Midsummer seems to be the target point people are looking at for things returning to actual normal. So hopefully that's the case where they can travel at least on a limited basis, because they can't do Monday Night Raw in the same place every week or SmackDown in the same place every week. Doesn't make sense. So the Thunderdome will probably exist through early to midsummer, and then we can all wave it goodbye, and it won't be award-winning or critically acclaimed anymore. So anyway, I know I wanted to just point that out because there are rumors going around on reputable sites, not just the rumor mills, that WWE is looking at bringing in a lot of fans. And I think that's risky, but I think it's a lot less risky this year than last year. Obviously, I mean, the pandemic last year was just a few weeks old that we all knew what coronavirus meant. We started the mask mandate. Remember the 15 days to slow the spread? Only 2 weeks. Yeah, well, it's been a year, and we're still slowing the spread. So, anyway, okay. But a lot to look forward to at this WrestleMania, and it got started and continued this week to build towards what we believe will happen at WrestleMania. We have Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan at Fastlane, and I think we kind of know where things are going there, unfortunately. And we have Edge versus Roman Reigns tentatively at Fastlane. Now, could they ever swerve us with a Daniel Bryan versus Edge at WrestleMania? I mean, they could. I guess they could. But, or maybe a three-way at WrestleMania. Because I don't know what Daniel Bryan's path to WrestleMania is beyond a championship match with Roman. But at the same time, Edge is back. If Edge wasn't in the picture, I think Roman Reigns versus Daniel Bryan would be a hell of a story to tell. I don't know why they're not pulling on their history. I have no idea why Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns are not pulling on their history from 2015. It makes no sense. You have it right there. Make it. Bring it out. Remember. Make us remember. Why are we ignoring it? It was an extremely important time in WWE with the fan selection versus the corporate selection. It was WWE versus the fans. And the fans ultimately won. It took a long time to get him heel, to shake Vince silly and make him realize what an awesome heel this guy would be. But why they're not pulling on the 2015 deal, it's just ridiculous. It's low-hanging fruit, guys. It's right there. Use it for the story. Instead, they're all just pretending that they never met before, essentially. I know they kind of vaguely talk in terms that they've worked with each other over the years and have known you over the years, but they don't go into specifics, which I think is really a missed opportunity for them to build to their program at Fastlane. Why not? It was a massively emotional time for fans at the time, but nonetheless, I'm still looking forward to the match at Fastlane. I like that Daniel Bryan seems more fired up and invigorated than ever. Kevin Owens felt the same way. He felt the same way with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is just everything he touches is gold and continues to be. We'll see how long that magic lasts. We've been on a very fun magic carpet ride with Roman Reigns the heel for quite some time. He has been just, I think, better than even most of us thought he could be as a heel. He certainly even exceeded my expectations, and I thought he'd be a great heel. He's a excellent heel. He's not just very good or great. He's just outstanding. There's a better word. He's outstanding as a heel. And, that magic carpet ride with him, I think, goes through Daniel Bryan at Fastlane. I don't think that's a spoiler of a prediction. It's just a matter of how does he retain? What kind of underhanded tactic does he use? Or maybe he just outright beats him. Maybe he just outright beats Daniel Bryan, puts him in the guillotine, and he passes out, and good night the lights. Possible. It's possible. I don't need Roman to cheat to win. Perhaps Lady Luck is on his side, where Daniel Bryan has him down, and the referee accidentally gets knocked down beforehand. Daniel hits his finish. He has Roman down for a 10 count. He's pinned him, but the referee is down. I mean, just Lady Luck. It's possible that too. I don't need Roman to use the ropes to gain leverage or pull the tights. I don't need that. I don't think he needs that. But I'm looking forward to this match at Fastlane. This is going to be a lot of fun. Plus, now we have the added wild card of next week on SmackDown, Edge versus Jey Uso. Winner gets to be special enforcer during the match at Fastlane. That's a really good hook. I like that. I really do. That to me was a great way to end the show, with Daniel Bryan and Edge brawling with Jey Uso and Roman. Yes, Daniel Bryan ends up laying out Edge, which, whatever. I'll get to that in a minute. But I want to sing the praises of all four men here first. And Jey Uso is playing his role very well. Edge tried to get him to come to his senses earlier in the show backstage. It didn't work. Roman Reigns continues to be this kind of quiet anger, arrogant, instilling fear, ruling on fear and respect dictator that he's done an outstanding job with. And Daniel Bryan's kind of come to life over the last month. He's been resurrected from the dead. And that's a great thing. It reminds you how good he can be. I think we've all forgotten. Maybe it was his haircut that he had for during the fall and part of the winter that was just god awful. I think he finally got some feedback. Hey, grow your hair back, Daniel, please. Maybe it was that. But all four men are just firing on all cylinders, and I'm loving it. Now we get to a confusing part. And part of me wants to kind of rant on this, but part of me wants to be a little more mature, and I'm sure some of you are like, just do it. Well, I don't want to manufacture a rant. We're very real on this show. So I'm going to talk about it, and I'll see if one just kind of falls out of my mouth. I don't understand Edge's frustration with Daniel Bryan. I'm not understanding this whatsoever. I've tweeted this out, too. I tweeted this out last week on SmackDown, and I tweeted this out this week on SmackDown. Of course, a couple days late because I don't watch SmackDown when you guys do. I tweet it out usually on like a Sunday when I get a chance and get around to watching it before this show. So I'm always late to the party. But my point is on this whole thing with Edge, who continues to respect Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan respect Edge. They're on kind of like a respectful, tense terms with one another. Yes, it boiled over this past week, and Daniel Bryan laid him out. But Edge got hot-headed at Daniel, so it was kind of even. But Edge getting frustrated with Daniel Bryan because Daniel Bryan is trying to worm his way into the main event of WrestleMania. That's ultimately what Daniel's doing, and he admitted it. He said, I don't know if this might be my last WrestleMania, which is actually true. I believe that. He said he doesn't know if this is going to be his last WrestleMania. It could be. We've been told for many, many months now that Daniel Bryan's career is coming to an end. At least probably in the next year, 2 years tops, Daniel Bryan will probably call it a day and live life with his family. And that's great. But that is transparently what he told Edge. That, look, when you pointed that WrestleMania sign when I was on my back at Elimination Chamber, something came alive on the inside of me. I was mortified. I was demoralized is the word he used. And, yeah, he should be, right? He lost to Roman Reigns. I mean, given the circumstances, he was, after Elimination Chamber, he didn't stand much of a chance against Roman. And that was kind of brought up by Edge. But why the hell is Edge frustrated with Daniel Bryan? Why? I don't understand this. Now, let me also understand this too. Edge is the ultimate opportunist, right? What is Daniel Bryan doing? Taking advantage of opportunities, right? A bit hypocritical on the part of Edge. But the biggest problem I have with all of this, which apparently Edge has a big problem with, is that Edge's spot at WrestleMania in the main event is 100% secured. He is guaranteed a shot at the Universal Championship at WrestleMania. End of subject. So why the hell would Edge care if Daniel Bryan is going after Roman Reigns? Does he just want to beat up Roman Reigns and take the title from him? He doesn't want Daniel to do it? Maybe that's a little more of a plausible scenario where he wants to exact some pain on Roman Reigns after watching him for years or whatever, over several months, the attitude change. If he wants to bring up that he's seen the way he's treated people over the last several months, and he wants to be the one to take the belt from Roman. He doesn't want Daniel to do it. That I would buy a little bit more, other than just Edge getting kind of put off by Daniel trying to weasel his way into the main event. You're the ultimate opportunist. That's what you lived by. That's what you did for your entire career as a singles star. So, and your spot is 100% safe. If you want to make it to the main event of WrestleMania, you do whatever you can to do it. You think he would appreciate and respect what Daniel's doing. Instead, he's annoyed at it. Yet, it doesn't affect Edge's spot at all at WrestleMania. I don't understand. The logic in this is so flawed. Like, what the hell? This makes no sense. Am I missing something, guys? Am I missing something that Edge explained as to why he's mad at Daniel Bryan that makes sense? That would impact him at WrestleMania. In fact, I would argue it gives Edge a better chance of winning at WrestleMania against Daniel than it would against Roman. So I can't figure this one out. It's very, very just sloppy logic on the part of creative to just say, yeah, Edge, you're going to go out there. We need you on TV, so we're going to have you go out there and you're just going to get annoyed at Daniel for trying to get in the main event. I don't know, guys. It makes no sense to me. I really, really am finding it difficult to understand why Edge has such a problem with this. It doesn't affect him at all. Like, zero in terms of being in the main event. Your spot is 100% locked up, man. So he's making a mountain out of a molehill. There's nothing there. He's making a story out of thin air, and we're all supposed to buy that he's annoyed. Yet he's the ultimate opportunist. Okay, I think I've made my point. But these two, I wouldn't mind that main event. I don't think it's even close to likely. I don't think there's a chance that Vince goes, you know what? Damn it. Edge and Daniel Bryan, people are going to love that. We're going to take them on a ride. I mean, it's not going to happen, right? We all know it's Edge. We all know it's Roman Reigns. Again, Daniel Bryan could insert himself in this to be a triple threat. I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate Daniel Bryan in the main event of WrestleMania, but at the same time, I think my need for the overall structure of WrestleMania of one-on-one championship matches to remain intact over the need to see Daniel Bryan in another main event. Plus, Edge versus Roman Reigns, you're focused on two men instead of three. Daniel Bryan would feel like the third wheel. There's no way to structure it otherwise. It's just not going to happen. This isn't 2015 anymore with Daniel Bryan and the Yes movement and the organic grassroots movement of fans just wanting to see Daniel Bryan in the main event and wanting him to overcome and wanting him to become champion. That is past. That's long gone, I think. Daniel Bryan's a sympathetic figure. He's still really good in the ring. He's still really good on the mic. But he had his time, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with time moving on here. So I think it would do a disservice to both Edge and Roman if Daniel Bryan was to be in the main event. But would I be absolutely shocked? No. I think WWE loves their triple threat. They love their fatal four ways. They love their, fatal five ways. They love they love their 8-man tag matches. They love all that kind of stuff. But we'll have to see what happens. All right, we're going to take a quick break for the sponsor of the show. And then I want to talk about Reginald and his sugar mama, Nia Jax. Yeah, we're going to get to that right after this.
Rotella Resale is your premier collectibles, toys, and novelty retailer. Action figures and statues by Funko, NECA, DC, Marvel, and more. Die-cast vehicles by First Gear, Die-cast Masters, Greenlight, and those hard-to-find models. Rotella Resale offers Zippo lighters, rock t-shirts, and toys from all the major brands. All merchandise is brand new and ready to ship. Shop now and receive free shipping on every order. Enter promo code VIDEO at checkout for 20% off your entire order. Visit RotellaResale.com. That's RotellaResale.com.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
Okay, well, we're going to get into a weird topic because WWE made it weird, so we're going to talk about something weird. That is the Reginald and Nia Jax dynamic that unfolded pretty tellingly this past week on SmackDown, where she took him shopping and essentially objectified him while he was shopping. Now, again, I will point this out. Imagine if the roles were reversed. Imagine if Reginald was doing this to Nia Jax. Now, I know the size difference would make it a little weird because typically it's the other way around. However, just think about that. I know that you people are saying, oh, well, it's different with men and women. Why? Right? Objectifying somebody is objectifying somebody. You know, I don't think the standards should be different, whether it's a man doing it to a woman or a woman doing it to a man. Now, again, I'm not offended. I could care less. I've seen much, much worse on WWE. In fact, unless you make it a concerted effort to try to offend me, your odds of offending me are fairly slim. So my point is, though, this is a weird relationship. Now, is it entertaining? Kind of. I don't hate it. You know, in fact, some of you are expecting me to rant on this. I'm not. I find Reginald actually engaging, oddly engaging. The way that he smiles, the way that he delivers his lines, he's got something about him that's magnetic. Even if he's essentially just the punching bag of the women's division. And, oh, don't worry. We're actually going to talk about the NXT women's tag titles later in the show. That's something I want to have a bit of a chat with you guys about. But, and something a little more lighthearted with Nia Jax and Reginald, this is a weird thing to see, but it's actually kind of believable. These two have an odd chemistry that kind of works. And I enjoy it, weirdly. Now, I don't like Nia Jax at all. Like, I think that she's... Again, if you want to pretend that what she puts on Twitter is actually her personality in real life, going on that, I'm not a fan of Nia Jax on a personal level, nor on a professional level, but I understand why WWE hired her. I get it. Now, I'm not even going to touch the injury thing. It's low-hanging fruit there. It's a pile-on, right? We all know Nia Jax's history and streak with people being injured. There's a lot of reasons for that, I'm sure. Not all of which I think are her fault directly. That said, you know, Nia Jax, I'm not a big fan of her. Except in this role, it seems. Now, this is 1 week old. This is just barely in its infancy, and we have no idea how long this is going to go. I don't think WWE knows how long this is going to go. I think a lot of times they don't even know how long storylines are going to go as a general rule of thumb. So, this whole thing with Nia Jax and Reginald, she took him shopping, he's trying on these different clothes, they play some music in the background, and he basically sits on her lap like she's Santa Claus, and he says to her that, hey, how can I repay you? And she smiles at him kind of suggestively and awkwardly long, just enough for the camera to say, cut, right? It went on about 3 seconds too long. I know they really wanted to focus in on her facial expression to imply sexual favors. I mean, there's no other way to put it. This is just the reverse of a sugar daddy, except it's a sugar mama. It's that exact dynamic that they're playing out. I don't think that's a secret, nor is it super intuitive or super, I guess, clever that I figured that out. I think everyone knows that. It's just, I'm good with it. Like, I'm fine with it right now. Number one, it keeps Nia Jax out of the ring. Okay, so if Reginald can keep Nia Jax not wrestling on a weekly basis and just doing these skits, fine. I mean, that's, and I'm sure, I'm not even going to go there because I said I wasn't. But I don't know. What do you guys think about this? Are you into this angle so far? 1 week old, of course. Are you into this? Being kind of the sex toy for Nia Jax, which is, again, not overtly told to us, but implied that this is the relationship. And Nia Jax, I believe, called it a situationship, which is basically an arrangement between the two of you give me what I want and I give you anything you want. Now, I didn't know Nia Jax has that much money. I didn't know that. I didn't know that she had just stashes of cash able to purchase all these things for Reginald while he's, I don't know. He's a sommelier, you would think. Anyway, I don't want to get into the details. Anyway, suffice to say, I'm actually enjoying this. It's weird, but I think it kind of fits Nia in a strange way. So, and apparently he also is still smitten about Sasha Banks. She said point blank that she is not smitten about him, and yet Bianca Belair is still somehow accusing Sasha of stringing him along, which she never did at all. Like, at all. And I don't know why she's accusing him of that, but it cost them a match with, again, kind of a weird assist from Reginald that caused the roll-up on Bianca Belair, taking a loss in the tag team match between Bianca Belair, Sasha Banks against Tamina and Natalya. A team that is quietly becoming a very dominant team. If you notice, they're kind of in the background, not talked a lot. They don't get a lot of promo time, but they're very, very quietly becoming a dominant team in the women's tag team division, almost under our noses, because it's all about Sasha and Bianca right now. And yeah, it's about Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler too, with now Reginald involved, but very quietly, very just softly, without us knowing. Keep an eye, guys. Just keep an eye on Natalya and Tamina. Again, I'm all for the team. And it gives both women something to do. They're both veterans. They both come from wrestling lineage. Okay? There's a lot there that they can pull from, and I'm all for this. Especially when the women's division needs a tag team. That's for sure. Now, I want to move on. Now, I don't talk about NXT that much. I don't, because I don't watch it. And I'll clarify, once again, for those who are new to the show, it's not that I have anything against NXT. I love NXT. I love what it stands for. I love the old school wrestling that it brings. I love the feel. I love the creative, mostly. But it's just because I simply don't have the time, which is why I brought on somebody that covers NXT, because I can't. I just do not have the time. That said, I want to bring up something that actually happened on the March 3rd episode of NXT. And again, this is the whole controversy with Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. They defended their NXT, they defended their women's tag team championships against Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. And the match ended in controversy. The referee was taken out. Adam Pearce sent a second referee to the ring. He ruled that Kai submitted to Baszler, although Kai was not the legal woman. And here's where it gets weird. The following week, William Regal established the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship for the NXT brand, so they don't have to deal with Raw and SmackDown any longer. And he awarded the championship to Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. So that effectively means that the Women's Tag Team Championship is no longer available on NXT. What? How is creating more championships better for the women or the entire company as a whole? More is worse. It devalues everything else that it also exists with. Furthermore, the women's tag team division as a whole is super thin. How often do we see the women's tag team championships forgotten, barely defended? You have to remind the fans that, oh yeah, we have a women's tag team championship, because tag teams generally for the women don't exist. You have let me see what you have. You have Natalya and you have Tamina. You have the Riot Squad of Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan. You have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. You have Naomi and Lana. That's pretty much it. I don't count Asuka and Charlotte. Like, that's it. And you're now going to create another tag team championship? Essentially, if you were going to make this on all brands, it would basically mean that one out of every two teams is champion. However, that isn't the case because what they've done is actually far worse. They have now taken the women's tag team division and continue to use that to further the separation from NXT, between NXT and the WWE main roster. It sends the message that WWE, Vince, wants to separate NXT from the mainstream WWE roster as far as possible. You know, it's really disconcerting because those that are NXT fans that were hoping it would be treated as a true third brand, not just the redheaded stepchild of WWE, there were some good signs of that. They beat Raw and SmackDown last year at Survivor Series, again, for whatever the hell that's worth. They were involved in last year's Royal Rumble. And what have they done since? They were neglected from this year's Royal Rumble. Yeah, you could say Ruby Riott. The nightmare of Rhea Ripley was part of NXT, and she came to the main roster and just kind of visited, but she ultimately was coming up anyway. So the plan was to have her kind of debut there, take a short break, and then come back for real and really debut on the main roster. So the problem I have, again, is that you are sending the message to fans and the entire, I don't want to use the corporate language, the entire fan base. How about that? Sounds way better than universe, doesn't it? The WWE fan base, the stockholders, the shareholders, that NXT is its own thing. They weren't involved in anything in Survivor Series. They weren't involved in the Rumble this year. They took a step back. NXT is its own just bubbled entity. They are their own entity that is not a part of the main roster. And Vince wants no crossover, no bleed over, unless they're actually going to be just feeding the main roster whenever they're ready to come up to the, quote, big leagues. That's how Vince probably views this. And I know this because he's shown it over the last year now. Now, AEW is kicking NXT's ass for the most part in ratings on a weekly basis. NXT will win one out of every 8 to 10 ratings and then drop back and win, just narrowly edge out AEW and then get beat 8 weeks in a row. As a whole, NXT is getting killed by AEW, generally speaking. So maybe he's put off by that. He's a little bit concerned about AEW and looking at the numbers side by side. I don't know what it is. But if you're looking for NXT to be truly considered a third brand, I think you'll be very disappointed because we're not seeing any signs of that. In fact, we're seeing more of a separation, more of a segregation of NXT. So I don't know. I don't mean to make those of you frustrated and hoping NXT will become more of a main stay in WWE and get more airtime on maybe on Raw or SmackDown or rather USA and Fox, I should say, not Raw and SmackDown, but USA and Fox. I think you will be sorely mistaken. And looking at this a little bit more narrowly, specifically for the women's tag team division, I mean, good Lord, what are we doing? The women do not need another championship, nor do the men, nor does anybody. Less is more. And you could say, well, what WWE would probably say in defense is, well, the Raw and SmackDown are typically where the champions live, and we want NXT to be able to have those championships and not rely on a storyline just to be able to fall into our laps that would work very nicely with bringing the women's tag team champions over. We want it to be here on a regular basis. We don't want to just have to happen and hope that it comes in a storyline. Is there really a demand for the women's tag team division to have a championship on SmackDown, or on NXT rather? Is there really that demand? Have people really been demanding it? The answer is no. Nobody even wanted the women's tag team division to have belts. Not until there's a true tag team division. They created them out of a fake movement. It was fake, guys. You know how I know it was fake? WWE planted fans in the camera view on a weekly basis with literally the same signs they were created the same way. We want women's tag team championships. And they would try to make it look like it's an organic movement from the fans, and they put it on camera every week, but not in a way that's like overtly obvious, just kind of glaring by the camera. And they would do this week after week. It was not a real movement. I'm all for it, but when it's right, not just because they feel like they need to. I never thought it was the right time. I'm seeing tag teams starting to form now. I'm all for it when it makes sense, not just because you feel like it would appease, I don't know, the public perception of how they're dealing with women and all of the things they're doing for the women. That they have to have everything the men have, even if it doesn't make sense. Look, I'm all for equal footing, but when the time's right, you can't take a division that was essentially just objectified and laughable at times during the Divas Championship era, outside of a few exceptions. Okay, there were definitely exceptions during the women's Divas era. Definitely. But as a whole, it was a joke. Before that, they were sexified in the Attitude Era and the Ruthless Aggression Era. They were just eye candy. And they only really made strides over the last 5 to 8 years. Really made strides. The Women's Championship just re-debuted 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when Stephanie McMahon reintroduced it as the Women's Championship. It's going to take time to rebuild, and you can't just all throw this in our lap, make first time this, first time that, everybody gets a champion. You know, pretty soon there'll be like a Women's United States Championship, a Women's Intercontinental Championship. I mean, they're headed that way. They're headed that way, but you also have to look at the Women's Royal Rumble. How many fillers did they need this year to put in the Women's Royal Rumble because they didn't have enough women? And they didn't want to bring in all the NXT, and that's another telltale sign. Vince didn't want to bring in the NXT women. He'd rather bring in the stars of yesteryear that have no chance, and it's just a nostalgia trip. And they bring them in, they get eliminated, or they have a quick run and they get eliminated, no one cares. And you're like, oh, cool, oh, Trish Stratus, oh, cool. Oh, Tori Wilson, oh, she looks good, okay, bye. Like, I mean, that's all they are. And half of the women that came in, it felt like were stars of yesteryear, not today's current stars. So you don't even have a full roster of women. Not that you can't. It felt very empty and shallow this past year in the Rumble. It didn't feel like it should have. You know, WWE did some great things, though. The Women's Evolution pay-per-view a couple of years ago. Why the hell hasn't there been a second one? I still remember that pay-per-view. One of the best pay-per-views of the year. And they haven't brought it back. Why? WWE certainly isn't shy with bringing out pay-per-views. I mean, they sometimes have 1 to 2 week turnaround. You can't squeeze in Evolution. It is just, I don't understand why they've done this. And I know I'm probably making a mountain out of a molehill, as I said earlier. But it's just so telling of what they view the women's division as. You know, or rather NXT, I should say. Women's division does need work, but the NXT brand as a whole, I think you've seen everything you need to see about how Vince truly feels about the NXT division. Segregate, divide, keep them away of my babies of Raw and SmackDown. Don't get them anywhere near my children. That's how he feels. You can see it. You know I'm right. I don't mean to be arrogant about this, but we're seeing overwhelming evidence of that view from Vince McMahon. So, okay, let's move on to something a little happier. Oh boy, that's not happy. We'll get to that in a minute. And again, I know that's not a full SmackDown review. We have Michael Ritter, who does an excellent job of covering SmackDown from top to bottom. But I have a Raw review on Tuesdays, so I don't want to cover too much of Raw to repeat myself. So that's why this is it's a weekend review, and I will touch on Raw, but it is very heavily focused on SmackDown as well, because really I do half of it on Tuesday with my Raw review. Okay, let's see. I'm being very selective here. I got to be very, very careful. Oh, Cesaro and Seth Rollins. So, Cesaro versus Murphy. And it was a fine match. You know that, I mean, these are two professionals. You had no problem with the quality of the match. Why they're fighting each other again, I don't know. It was just a setup, which we all knew. It's fine. I'm not ranting about it. It's cool. These two, again, you know what you're getting. You didn't hear much from Cesaro this week, but this was Seth's time to get some heat back. The ridiculous pants he was wearing, like the plaid suit pants, were hilarious. I enjoy that. And the shoes he was wearing. He knows just how to get under your skin with stuff he wears as a heel. I still don't know what exactly embracing the vision is. What vision? What's this vision? Just show me the vision. Or is it just a tagline that you have no substance to? That's what this feels like from Seth. I like the tagline. I like your catchphrase. Embrace the vision. Cool. Probably look good on his shirt. And he's an ultra talented dude. But if you're going to say over and over, and the announcers are going to say over and over about Seth wanting for people to embrace the vision, what vision? We've gotten no specifics other than the vision is what are we just supposed to by default understand that the vision is that he is the champion, he is the king, he is the ultimate talent on SmackDown, that we're all supposed to bow down to him? I mean, is that what this is? I guess by default I'm supposed to understand that that's what this implies. But I'd rather have him tell me. It's a great catchphrase. I really like it. But at least explain it to us. It's so hollow. When I think of embrace the vision, I don't think of a mission statement. I don't think of his actual vision for what SmackDown should be. I just think of the words. I should be thinking of the context behind it, and I don't, because there's no context that we've been told behind it, at least that I'm aware of. But Cesaro gets beat down by Seth Rollins after Seth Rollins was sitting on the ramp watching the match. And he stomped his head twice, was about to put his head in a chair, and the officials stopped him. It was really nice heat on Seth. I really enjoyed watching Seth get some real heat for the first time in a while. And for God's sakes, it's not the Dominic and Rey Mysterio. I mean, that's always a godsend that we don't see those three work together ever again. Like, never. I don't even want them to be in the backstage area and lock eyes. Never. Okay. Rey Mysterio, Dominic, and the Street Profits won the 8-man tag team match against Otis, Chad Gable, Dolph Ziggler, and Robert Roode. Montez Ford was from the heavens, that Michael Cole has to always say, and he got the pin on Roode for the win. So, fine, I guess. Otis is just a de facto heel. It's very, very stale. There's not a whole lot of context to that either, but I'll go with it. I don't like Otis, so fine. He's cast correctly. And Ziggler and Roode are tag team champions, but we haven't heard from them in a while either. The Dirty Dogs. It's kind of a fun name. There wasn't a whole lot of context to this, and I wish there was a little bit more. It's funny because most of these people, I would say, from a character perspective, I didn't like any of the baby faces. Like, I'm not a fan of any of the baby faces. Rey Mysterio, Dominic, or the Street Profits. You guys know how I feel about that. Otis, I can't stand. I guess really it was just Chad Gable, Ziggler, and Roode to some extent are the only guys that, I can say, okay, they have, they don't want to make me change the channel. But anyway, this match was fine. It was fine, and the babyfaces got a big win, and Montez Ford continues to be the star of the tag team. There's no question. I mean, we all know we have to find a way to make sure that WWE plays that replay of how high he can jump off the top rope, which is crazy, but sure, fine. Okay, let's see. Big E returned, and we got teased with it most of the night that Big E was coming back tonight after the brutal assault by Apollo Crews, and I was like, okay, cool. It'll be interesting to see what he has to say. And when Big E came out, he was hobbling along. He had a crutch. He had this neck brace, and he stripped it all off. And I'm not really injured. And he's jumping around like a fool. And I said, "Oh my God!" I mean, I was like, you've got to be kidding me, right? Not that he's not injured. I mean, he took a few weeks off, selling the injury. I could understand why he's just faking people out, I guess. But I don't. I was like, no, we're going to get a goofy promo, right? We're going to get this New Day Biggie promo that he just consistently does, and I was very worried. I was very worried that it was going to be just terrible competency in terms of the creative for this promo. I was very worried. But that's not what we got. We got a serious Biggie for the first time ever in a promo. Now, he's shown serious tones in his promos before, but this was a first A to Z serious promo Biggie has had in his entire career since being with the New Day. Now, I know he was with Ziggler for a while when he started, and he was essentially the heavy for Ziggler, if you don't remember that. But this was really the first time that I was like, oh my, it was a breath of fresh air. Was he a little too over intense? Maybe, but I thought overall it was very good. I was very, very happy with the fact that they took to heart the fact that Big E needs to change. And you can't just have Big E take a beating like that and show it week after week and then have him come out and crack jokes or little, dancing or gyrations or all that like leftover crap from the New Day. They showed a true fire. He showed a true fire. And I think it's also kind of a sin that WWE has really committed over the years. If somebody takes a beating, they're really just humiliated, or they have a massive loss, they lose a championship or whatever, and they come out and still do all their little like notes during and movements during their entrance. You ever notice that? Like, I don't even know how to say this right. And maybe I won't be able to articulate it correctly. If I can't say the word articulate, that's not a good start, right? But they come out, for example, if Sasha Banks gets beat to a pulp one week and she's demoralized, she's left in a heap, she loses her championship, and the next week she comes out and does her little movement, her little hip throw that she does on stage, and she does her little dance on stage coming out. To me, that should be thrown to the side for when you're in a good mood, when it makes sense. Not if you've been humiliated. Don't worry, and instead, you put the priority on making sure you do your entrance the same way, because that's your entrance. You got to do it. And instead of logic taking over that, no, why would I be dancing up here? So take note of that. Especially if somebody has kind of a very high energy entrance, if they come out after some demoralizing loss and they still manage to make sure that they got to hit their entrance exact, even if it doesn't make sense because of their mood that they should be in. I hope I made sense on that, guys. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But I was very happy with this promo. Biggie is looking for a fight. We all know Apollo's not going to come out and oblige. He's the heel. I thought his little commando dudes were going to come out and beat him down. But he issues an open challenge, King Corbin. It's for somebody that desperately needs a character change, you're kicking the ass right now is Baron Corbin. In a big way. But Baron Corbin comes out and doesn't actually officially challenge him because he's not in the right clothes, but says, basically that he wouldn't mind putting some lumps on his head or something to that effect. Sami Zayn comes out and essentially cuts in line of King Corbin and says, I accept. And he brings his documentary crew out and says it's going to be the finale where he wins the Intercontinental Championship. And he goes after Big E. And the match starts. So, first of all, I don't understand. Why does a babyface champion always have to issue open challenges and be a fighting champion? I don't understand this. To show he's not a coward? Or, I would argue the opposite. I would argue that they're smart if they don't just allow anyone to come and challenge them. I would argue the opposite, because, and it further devalues the belt by allowing anybody out there that wants to challenge me instead of earning it. That, to me, disrespects the championship. I know people don't think that way, and they just go, oh, cool, open challenge, who's going to come out? That's superficial crap to me. I look at, why are we doing this? Because Vince makes sure that everybody that's a babyface champion is always a fighting champion. Why? I could argue really good against the opposite, that it should be. Not that they would be cowardice. You could be smart about defending the championship, but also respect it. And not just cater to the stereotype that every babyface needs to be a fighting champion and also declare it. You don't believe me? Every time there's a big win for a babyface becoming champion for the first time, what is their mission statement? It's always the same. Clean, goody two-shoes, I'm going to be a fighting champion garbage. I don't understand it. It to me, it takes away from the character and the championship all at once. But Biggie challenges Sami Zayn, and Sami Zayn had a good sunset flip that made you believe. It was like a 2 3/4 count. It was whoa! It kind of made you kind of like think twice. Sami does eventually lose, and then we get Apollo Crews coming out and beating down Biggie again with the steel steps. I gotta say, I'm loving this. I know you all thought that I was going to rant on this with all the stuff I just said. I'm loving this storyline. I really am. Not only am I happy about Biggie and his change in tone when it needs to be. I'm not saying he needs to come out and be Mr. Serious every time, but when it makes sense, and this week certainly made sense, and hopefully next week, if he's not in a hospital bed again, it'll make more sense that he comes out more serious. This is inevitably leading to a Big E versus Apollo Crews at Fastlane match for the Intercontinental Championship. Maybe Apollo wins. It's very possible. But I've never felt anything for Apollo Crews his entire career from an emotional standpoint. Nothing. I mean, zero. Because I've been given no reason to. And now I'm loving this. I'm loving Apollo Crews' aggressiveness, his change in character. He's not just Mr. Smiley anymore. Mr. just athletic and smile. He's got backup, although we didn't see them this week. He believes that he's Nigerian royalty. The accent, I'll eventually get over that he just adopted one. It's just weird, but I'll go with it. And this it makes me want to see Big E kick Apollo Crews' ass. And that is objective number one, and I want to see it. So, job well done on all ends with Apollo Crews and Big E. And especially for Apollo Crews feeling finally relevant in WWE. It's about damn time. So, that's an awesome thing. Now, touching on Monday Night Raw a little bit, guys, as I did a full review on Tuesday if you want to go listen. But we are getting closer and closer to a Fiend return. If Randy Orton would stop throwing up, black stuff, whatever it is, I mean, maybe we can get to a return. Alexa Bliss keeps teasing it, and she keeps, doing a Jack in the Box, sitting in her pentagram, and saying, it's not time yet, and dust to dust, and he will rise again, he'll be reborn. He's coming back. Duh, right? But how does he look? What kind of match do they have? If it's a match at all, what is this? We'll have to see. Maybe it's a Firefly Funhouse special. I would argue against that this year. If there's going to be true fans in the arena, I think they would be pissed, flat out just angry with WWE if they did any kind of cinematic stuff, which hopefully that will immediately solve that problem I have of cinematic matches. I know some of you love them. I hated almost all of them because it's just a flat out exposure of the business. Even the Boneyard match, which going back and watching it again, I did a couple of months ago. Like, it's fine. It's the least worst of all of them. I don't like that it was Taker's last match. I understand people feel it's poetic. Oh, he's Mark Calloway and The Undertaker and the American Badass. Yeah, he could have done that in a ring and with actual people. I mean, so if I was given that option, I would still have him in front of fans. You can still do that in an arena with people. I know that, again, people loved it. I've kind of felt it ho-hum. Just because I'm not a fan of cinematic matches at all. So, hopefully, that doesn't happen, and fans will be angry if it does with Randy and The Fiend. And I don't know where Alexa fits into all this either. It's going to be very interesting where Alexa Bliss fits into this entire story. Does she show up? Does she help Randy? Or rather, does she help The Fiend? Does she take another RKO? What is the end game for Alexa Bliss? I don't want her being just the lackey of The Fiend. I want her engaged in her own storyline. And for a while, I thought she was. With Asuka, chasing the women's championship. That went away. So, I want Alexa on her own path at some point. Maybe Randy Orton breaks the spell. You know, maybe he's able to, whatever the hell that is, break the spell, and Alexa Bliss's soul is set free. I don't know what the kryptonite is for that, or the solvent is for that. But so that's what's going on there. As far as Sheamus and Drew McIntyre, you know, I'm not sad this is continuing. They beat the hell out of each other. My God, do they wail on one another? I think they're very comfortable with one another, and they just say lay it in, and they are really good friends. So I'm sure that comfortability and familiarity with those two helps with the physicality and the flow of their matches. But there's no doubt this is going to a match at Fastlane, as I predicted a month and a half ago. And that's fine. Drew McIntyre needs a pit stop before WrestleMania, which inevitably, I think, will be Bobby Mackey. Jeez, I'm watching too much Ghost Adventures, if that makes sense to anybody out there. Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre. I think Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre are on a collision course for one-on-one at WrestleMania. That is, I believe, 90% chance of where it's happening. Now, could they throw somebody else into the mix, like a Sheamus? Yeah, they could. If it was anything other than WrestleMania, I would feel confident it's probably going to be a multi-person match. But since it's WrestleMania, I'm hoping and I'm praying that it's actually just a singles one-on-one match. Now, again, Brock Lesnar's out there. His name's been floating out there for some time. I don't think that'll happen. I'd give it like a 1 in 4 chance that Brock Lesnar's either involved or shows up at WrestleMania. I think it's slightly possible. Do I want to see Bobby Lashley versus Lesnar? Hell yeah, of course. And I think that will happen at some point. But perhaps it's not till SummerSlam or next year's WrestleMania. Yeah, I think that's most likely. Because I think it's about Drew and I think it's about Bobby Lashley this year. So that's ultimately what I think is going to happen. Again, Bad Bunny and The Miz. I just want WrestleMania to come and go so we can just stop talking about Bad Bunny and he can lose the 24/7 title. Why the hell no one's ever gone after him? I don't know, because I guess he's got his big mouth solution of Damian Priest backing him up for some unknown reason, because they're both Latino. Is that the bond that they both share the same culture and heritage? Is that what this is about? That they both just can speak Spanish, and they both can, you know, slap each other's hands like they're best friends since 6th grade. And I don't know. I don't get this, but I don't want to rant about it as I've done so many times on this show. So I'll stop myself there. But overall, guys, like we're I think on a pretty good path to Fastlane and matches that are as relevant as they probably could be. This is a pay-per-view we know doesn't have a whole lot of consequence. Typically, it's just another speed bump. Another roadblock. How about that for a pun? If you guys know what I'm talking about there. It's just another roadblock till WrestleMania. That's all this is. And it's usually not anything that's going to be cataclysmic to what occurs at WrestleMania. It is just another stepping stone to get to WrestleMania. I would say, you know, if Fastlane was in my arena, in my town, I'd be hesitant to attend. I really would. Because it typically is not a massively newsworthy show. It's just get us to the actual matches for WrestleMania. That's all this typically is. So, I think that's it for me tonight, guys. I know I didn't talk about absolutely everything, but if you're looking for more of a full Raw review, of course, that's on my Tuesday show that you can go back in the feed and take a listen to if you're interested. Follow us on Instagram at WWE_podcast. You can also hit us up on Twitter at wrestling_audio. Or if you want an ad-free version of this show, head on over to Patreon at patreon.com/the WWE podcast, or just search us on Patreon. They have an app, so you don't have to use a browser. No one uses a browser, I hope, to listen to the show. But for $1, you get every show we've done for 0 ads. None. So that's always a plus. And I hope you guys take advantage of that, especially with WrestleMania season coming up. And we'll probably do about 40 shows between now and then. So I hope you guys are certainly doing well. We will check back in with you on Tuesday night after Monday Night Raw takes place, and we will cover that show and everything else. You guys know the schedule for the rest of the week. We pump out 9 shows a week. Not bad. So if you're interested in sending feedback to the show, realwwepodcast@gmail.com, or you can call us at 518-952-0247. And you can call us there and leave a message, and that should do it for us tonight. So, guys, thanks as always for listening. I'll talk to you next time.